Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Saiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Slokesu Bhaktir Bhavati Naistri Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langeti Grim Yukrupatam Vande Shri Gurun Deva Paramananda Madhava Shri Chaitanya Hari Om Sat Sat. Reading from Srimad Bagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 1, Text number 5. Evam Vyavasito Rajan Satya Sankalpa Ishvaraha Sapavyajena Vipranam Sanjahre Swakulam Vibhu. Word by word. Evam, in this way. Vyavashita, deciding for certain. Rajan, O king. Satya Sankalpa, whose desire always proves true. Ishvaraha, the Supreme Lord. Sapa Vyajena, by the pretext of curse. Vipranam, of Brahmanas. Sanjahre, withdrew. Swakulam, his own family. Vibhu, the Almighty. Translation purport given by Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Parikshit, translation. My dear Parikshit, when the Supreme Almighty Lord, whose desire always come to pass, had thus made up his mind, he withdrew his own family on the pretext of curse spoken by an assembly of Brahmanas. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made a very important comment on this verse. He states that since the intentions of the Supreme Lord, Krishna Chandra, are always perfect, it is certainly in consideration of the greatest benefit for the entire world that he destroyed his own family on the pretext of a curse by Brahmanas. In this connection, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has shown a parallel in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, appearing as his own devotee. Lord Chaitanya appeared along with his first plenary expansion, known as Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and with Lord Advaita Prabhu. All three personalities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu, are accepted by Vaishnavacharyas to be in the category of Vishnu Tattva, the full status of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three personalities of Godhead perceived that in the future their so-called seminal descendants would get undue recognition and thus being puffed up, would commit grave offences against those who were actually Vaishnava Gurus or representative of the Lord. So in this verse, Sukadeva Muni is answering to Parikshit Maharaj that Supreme Almighty Lord, as he desired that he will wind up his own kula or vamsha, he withdrew his own family on the pretext because it was a curse spoken by Brahmanas. When Samba came in disguise with his friends, they were playing fool with the Brahmanas while the Brahmanas were performing their yagnas, homas and yagnas. So they came near and they approached the Brahmanas and asking them that whether this particular lady will get a male child or a female child. So the friends of Sambal, the Yadu dynasty, the boys who belongs to Yadu dynasty, disguised Samba as a lady as a pregnant lady, and they were playing fool with the Brahmanas. So that is why we should learn always that the etiquette, and we should learn how to behave with the pure Brahmanas, not the so-called Brahmanas, because Brahmanas' words are very, very powerful on those days, because Brahmanas used to perform their devotional service according to Vedic injunctions, and Brahmanas they were very, very serious and sincere in performing their transcendental activities towards Lord, and they used to sacrifice, and they used to surrender and dedicate their lives dedicate their whole life to please the Lord and to preach the message of the Lord, deliver the message of the Lord. They used to broadcast the message of the Lord. So when the Samba came in disguise as a lady, a pregnant lady, in their pure devotion service, they were able to find out with their Divya Darshanam, with their Divya Drusti. They saw that he is not a lady, is a Samba. Then they cursed that the whole Yadu dynasty will get destroyed because you have committed a great offense at the lotus feet of Brahmanas, Vipras they are called. So here Prabhupada is quoting, the disciples of Prabhupada are quoting in the purport the statement given by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And as we know, in Kali Yuga, the five Panchatattva, the five personalities are very, very prominent. Those those people who are living in the Kali Yuga, they have mandatorily they have to keep these deities Panchatattva, Chaitanya, Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita, and Gadadhara, and Vasadi. They have to keep these deities and they should worship at their home. These are the worshipable deities of the Kali Yuga. So that is also mentioned in this purport. Lord Chaitanya appeared along with his prior expansion. So there are different tattvas like Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. All these three personalities, Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda and Advaita, belongs to Vishnu Tattva. And we, the living entities, we belong to Jiva Tattva. Because the prominent potencies of Lord Krishna is internal energy, Bahiranga Shakti, Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti. So Bahiranga Shakti is this material world which is governed and administered by Durga Devi, and as we know that the Antaranga Shakti is Srimati Radharani, and Tatastha Shakti, Tatastha Shakti denotes we, the living entities, soul. So these three personalities of Godhead perceived that in the future their so-called seminal descendants would get undue recognition, thus being puffed up would commit grave offenses against those who were actually Vaishnava Gurus, representative of the Lord. So in Kali Yuga, as we see that it is very difficult to figure out the Vaishnavas, because there will be so-called Gurus and there are so-called Brahmanas, and there are many fake Gurus who are deceiving the people in the name of God, in the name of religion. So we should be very cautious, and we should know who is a real Vaishnava Guru and who is a fake Guru. So a real Guru will always deliver the message of the Lord as it is, as delivered by his spiritual master. Like all the spiritual masters should come from the disciplic section, Guru Parampara. So therefore we should be very choosy, or we should be very intelligent to select a bona fide Guru, because a bona fide Guru will come from the bona fide Sampradaya, like Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. 4 authorized Sampradayas are there: Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Brahma is the leader for that, and Brahma is representing that. And Sri Sampradaya, Lakshmi is the leader, and Rudra Sampradaya and Kumara Sampradaya. So Vishnu Swami and Nimbarka are the leaders of these two. So we are very fortunate to be in the midst of these Vaishnava Sampradayas. Every living being is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mamaivamsa Jivo Jivalokya Sanatanaha Manaha Kastindriyani. So every living entity is the part and parcel of the Lord. So nobody is aloof, or nobody is segregated or separated from Lord's vision or Lord's energy. So every living entity is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as said in the Bhagavad Gita. Mamaivamsa. Every living entity is originally a son of God. Yet to execute his pastimes, the Lord selects certain highly qualified living entities whom he allows to take birth as his personal relatives. But those living entities who appear as descendants of the Lord's personal family may undoubtedly become proud of such a position and thus abuse the great adulation they receive from ordinary people. In this way, such persons may artificially get undue attention and divert people from the actual principle of spiritual advancement, which is to surrender to the pure devotee who represents the Lord. The last 8 verses of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita give a description of the pure devotees. The Lord permits to act as acharyas or spiritual leaders of mankind. In other words, simply to take birth in the personal family of Krishna is not the qualification for being a spiritual master. Since according to Bhagavad Gita, Pitaham Asya Jagata, every living entity is eternally a member of the Lord's family. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dvesho Stino Priyaha. I am equal to everyone. No one is my enemy and no one is my special friend. If the Supreme Personality of God appears to have a special family such as Yadu dynasty, such a so-called family is a special arrangement of the Lord's pastimes in order to attract the conditioned souls. When Krishna descends, he acts as if he were an ordinary person in order to attract the living entities to his pastimes. Therefore, Krishna acted as though the Yadu dynasty was his personal family, although in fact every living entity is a member of his family. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes in the last 8 verses of the 12th chapter, the name of the chapter is devotional service. So because every living entity is a son and daughter of Krishna, but those living entities who the Lord will select, who are highly elevated, who performs unalloyed devotional service. So Lord will select those personalities, those devotees, to display the pastimes along with the Lord. So they are very, very most fortunate. But some descendants who has appeared along with the Lord's personal family may undoubtedly become a proud because of such a exalted position. I have appeared along with the Lord and the Yadu family. So like that they will have that proud. So for those people, they get the diversion. And they become very proud, and slowly their spiritual progress will get detained, or there will be an obstacle or hassle or a barrier for the devotional service. So that's why one should be very humble, one should be very meek, while discharging our duties or discharging our performing our devotion service to the Lord. So in Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter, last 8 slokas, Krishna says that the pure devotees of the Lord will himself permits some pure devotees as acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj. Like that, he allows, he permits to act as acharyas or as spiritual leaders of mankind. In other words, simply to take birth in the personal family of Krishna is not the qualification of being a spiritual master, since according to Bhagavad Gita. So here it is very important point to be noted. Simply to take birth in the personal family of Krishna is not the qualification for being a spiritual master. So just by taking a birth in Krishna's family, so without having any qualification, one cannot become a spiritual master. So one should have that qualities. One should be qualified. Means he should know all the Vedas. He should be very expert in all the Vedas. He should be ready to defeat any sort of Chaturvedis or any sort of learned man or Pandits, those who offend the authority of the Vedas, those who commit offenses against any Vaishnavas or Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dvesho Stino Priyaha. He says here, Krishna says here in Bhagavad Gita, I am equal to everyone. Nobody is my enemy, and I am nobody, and no one is my special friend. If Supreme Personality of God appears to have a special family such as such a so-called family, is a special arrangement of the Lord's pastimes in order to attack the conditioned souls. When Krishna descends, he acts as if he were an ordinary person in order to attract the living entities to his pastimes. Therefore, Krishna acted as though the Yadu dynasty was his personal family, although in fact every living entity is a member of his family. So when Krishna came as an ordinary person, what that is the reason behind that is to attract the living entities, attract the conditioned souls. So ordinary people, however, not understanding higher principles of spiritual knowledge, easily forget the actual qualification of a bona fide spiritual master and instead give undue importance to people born in the Lord's so-called family. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore avoided the impediment on the path of spiritual enlightenment by leaving behind no children. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu married twice, he was childless. Nityananda Prabhu, who is also Supreme Personality, did not accept any of the natural sons born of his own son. Sri Veerabhadra, similarly Lord Advaita Acharya, divested of his association of all his sons except Achyutananda and two others. Achyutananda, the chief faithful son of Advaita Acharya, had no seminal progeny, and the remaining three of the six sons of Lord Advaita fell from the path of devotion to the Lord and are known as rejected sons. In other words, the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allowed little facility for continuing the so-called seminal family to create confusions. So the respect shown to the conception of seminal lineage in difference to the ideas of these Mahatas is unfit to be accepted by one who actually understands the supreme truth from Vedic authority. Other acharyas or spiritual masters have also demonstrated this point in their own family. The divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, our own beloved spiritual master, who is the mighty author of Srimad Bagavatam series, was born in a family of pure devotee, and he himself exhibited all the symptoms of pure devotion service from his very childhood. Srila Prabhupada eventually came to the Western countries and exhibited unprecedented spiritual potency in establishing Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. In a few short years, he translated more than 50 large volumes of Vedic philosophy. By his practical activities, he is certainly understood to be the most empowered representative of the Lord. Nonetheless, his own family members, although devotees of Krishna, did not at all come up to the proper standard of devotion service and are therefore not given attention by the members of ISKCON. The natural tendency for the members of ISKCON would be to offer all reverence and worship to the members of Srila Prabhupada immediately Prabhupada's immediate family. But since by Krishna's arrangement, these family members are not at all on the platform of pure devotion service, the members of ISKCON give them hardly any attention, but instead worship those who actually exhibit the qualities of highly advanced Vaishnavas, regardless of their so-called birth. In other words, birth cannot constitute the qualification for a respectable person, even when one is born in the Lord's own family or Acharya's family. What to speak of an ordinary wealthy or learned family? So from this paragraph we learn a lesson that one cannot become a devotee unless or otherwise he has proper qualification or proper eligibility. No, not eligibility, it's a qualification. Qualification means he should get trained himself by learning Vedas under the guidance of the proper bona fide spiritual master. So just because Prabhupada was a great Acharya, he was a founder Acharya, but in his family, his father was a very good devotee. He has come from the Vaishnava background, but still Prabhupada, the children were not at all, they have not taken up this Krishna consciousness very seriously, but even ISKCON members also were not at all involved in those activities, because the devotees, they give first priority to the persons who have taken up Krishna consciousness, persons who are performing who are following the teachings of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's like that. We just because one person is a doctor, we cannot say that his son is also a doctor, unless or otherwise his son will get qualified or recognized by the recognized by respective governments, respective government. He should get trained. He should get that proper knowledge. So if one wants to become a devotee, he has to get a training. He has to go undergo the serious penances. He has to undergo the Vedic culture, the Vedic training, the Vedic education, the science of Krishna, the science of self-realization. One should become self-realized. Otherwise, he cannot become a devotee. He should do sadhana. Sadhana bhakti and Vedika bhakti. There are two types of bhakti is there. Vedika bhakti and Raganuga bhakti. Vedika bhakti is vidhi. Vidhi means you must do all these things. And while performing this Vedika bhakti or sadhana bhakti, one will gradually climb the ladders of devotion service to the top rung of Anuraganuga bhakti. That means spontaneously he will do all sort of devotional service without any compulsion or without any force. That's called Raganuga bhakti. If you study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then you will know the different types of bhaktis and the description of bhaktis. So the highly advanced Vaishnavas, one who actually exhibit the qualities of highly advanced Vaishnavas, regardless of their so-called birth. So by birth one cannot become a Brahmana. By quality one can become a Brahmana. Even a Sudra can become a Brahmana if he is qualified or if he has taken up the devotion service in a greater extent by studying under the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master. So, what to speak of an ordinary wealthy or learned family? Just because he is very wealthy, just because he is very opulent, we cannot recognize him as an elderly person, or you cannot recognize him as a Mahatma. Unless otherwise he has unalloyed and unconditional devotion service. So in India there is a class of men known as Nityananda Vamsha, who claim to be the direct descendants of Lord Nityananda and therefore worthy of highest respect for their position in devotion service. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada has written the Nectar of Devotion. In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. So they further claimed that the practice of spreading devotion service belonged belonged only to that particular class, who was known as Nityananda Vamsha. In this way, exercised their artificial power for some time until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. So there was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successful, and it is not now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already high class Brahmana. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It is on the basis of this position that anyone from any part of the universe can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. So from this particular paragraph, we can the disciples of Prabhupada are bringing the prominent the right information about Nityananda Vamsha. So after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, there were some direct descendants of Lord Nityananda, worthy of highest respect for their position of devotion service. In this regard, Prabhupada has written the Nectar of Devotion in the Middle Ages. After the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate Lord Nityananda, a class of people who are not at all who claims to be the associate of Nityananda Vamsha, were cheating and deceiving the people, saying that we are from the Goswami caste. Goswami means one who is master of senses. Godasa means one who are a slave to the senses. So they claim to be the Goswamis, but they are not real Goswamis. They were claiming that they are the associates of Lord Nityananda. But after the appearance of great Acharya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Keshe Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, then when he appeared, he drove off all these fraudulent people and established Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaudiya Math. I think he established 64 Gaudiya Maths or 92 Maths, I don't remember, if I am not right. So after that, all these cheaters were disappeared, and he was able to establish a pure devotional service. So it is on the basis of the position that anyone from any part of the universe can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava if he performs devotional service. Then he is considered to be a high class Brahmana. In other words, the essence of spiritual knowledge is that every living being, regardless of his present status in life, is originally a servant of the Supreme Lord, and it is the mission of the Lord to reclaim all these fallen living entities despite his past situation. Any living being who is willing to surrender again at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord or its bona fide representative can purify himself by strictly adhering to the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga, thus act as a high class Brahmana. Nonetheless, the seminal descendants of the Lord think themselves to have acquired their ancestors' character and position. Thus, the Supreme Lord, who is well-wisher of the entire universe and especially of his devotees, bewilders the discriminatory powers of his own descendants in such a contradictory way that these seminal descendants become recognized as a deviant, and actual qualification to be a representative of the Lord, namely unalloyed surrender to the will of Krishna, remains prominent. So, in conclusion, the essence of spiritual knowledge is that every living being, regardless of his present status in life, is originally a servant of Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And it is the mission of the Lord to reclaim all of these fallen living entities. So, in brief, if a living entity who surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his bona fide representative can purify himself by strictly adhering to the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga and act as a high-class Brahmana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. So one more point to be noted, that the seminal descendants being recognized as a deviant and the actual qualification to be representative of the Lord name. So thus the Supreme Lord, who is well-wisher of the entire universe and especially of his devotees, bewilders the discriminatory powers of his own descendants. So Krishna is very, very honest and very, what we can say, very, is very honest in judicial point of, in the judicial point of view, that Krishna himself bewilders the discriminatory power of his own descendants in such a contradictory way that these seminal descendants become recognized as a deviant and actual qualification to be a representative of the Lord, namely unalloyed. So he means to say that only unalloyed devotees are qualified to display the pastimes along with Krishna. Even though the persons who have taken birth or who have appeared along with Krishna in his same Vamsha, in his same Yadu family, if nonetheless, if he commits any mistakes or any offences against his devotees, Krishna will see to that proper justice should be given to those people, given or proper punishment or proper proper punishment should be given to those people who have committed offences against those high-class Brahmanas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.